Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founding member of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome, everyone, to our one of three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people discuss topics related to the workplace, humanity in the workplace, in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues are out there that are facing people today, because it is our goal to both work with employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be always going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And just a reminder that we have meet and greets on all three calls 15 minutes prior. So please feel free to invite your friends, your coworkers, your fur babies, and even share the replays on our LinkedIn Live and YouTube channels. And remember, as always, Share and Care with Sandy Chernoff is always today, hosted by Sandy. I always host Conversation for Humanity on Wednesday, and Thursdays is Humanity Happy Hour, hosted none other by our great friend and mentor, Carla Finnegan. And as you jump on, whether to be on LinkedIn Live or on our YouTube channel, please comment in the chat section, whether it be on either platform. Let us know where you're jumping on from. We would love to have that great engaging conversation with you. If you have any questions, concerns, show topics you want to put out there, please let us know. And if you're watching this on the replay, be sure to use the hashtag replay and still let us know where you are watching from. And just to let you guys know, we can have at least 6 people on at a time. So I will put the live link into both our YouTube and LinkedIn Live platforms here shortly, so you guys will join us and everything. So here's the gang rolling in. Here is Miss Carla. Don't tell me your microphone's not working either, too.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
I was just on another call where I was muted on Zoom, and then it seems if I pop over here, I've got to hit the microphone button and turn it on and off. I don't know. Good old technology, you know?
I know how that goes. Hey, Lisa, I think what you can try to probably do this is take the link, and if you want to try it from your mobile device, you can try to maybe try it there and see if that might work. If you want to try that and everything. So I apologize that you're having issues, because for some reason or another, she can't talk to us.
I was on a call with somebody from the UK yesterday, and they could hear me, but I couldn't hear them.
Wow.
Logged on and off several times, and I tested my audio, and it was fine. And we ended up connecting through her Zoom, and it was fine. It was just so weird. You just never
That is, you're using the same platform, which was Zoom.
Yeah.
One Zoom doesn't work, but the other one does.
Yeah, it works like, it'll go one way, but not the other way. So I said, hey, invite me to your Zoom. And I jumped on her Zoom and coming out of the UK, and we didn't have any issues with it.
That's weird.
That's really weird. But hey,
it is so weird.
It beats nothing, you know?
I know. It's always something.
Always something. Always something. How was your long weekend?
My weekend was good. It was relaxing. I just basically stayed around the house. And of course, my wife had to work on Labor Day yesterday, so she had to work. She was even asked not once but twice, do you want to work? No. Do I want to work? No. Am I working? Yes. And I'm like, geez, unbelievable. So, of course, I worked yesterday. So it was really uneventful. There was hardly anybody eating. So you know how that goes.
I sent you a picture. We went to Texas Roadhouse and I had reminiscence of when we met and went to Texas Roadhouse.
Yes, we did.
Going to Florida. And I was really surprised that, we were there like 5:30, 6 o'clock or so. And, I was really surprised that it wasn't packed like it normally is.
Well, that's because a lot of people are getting back to normal. I truly believe. I was just watching a little bit of the Dan Bongino show, and he was showing all the college games that was going
Oh
on.
yeah, I saw that.
That was amazing. Alrighty, here.
Well, I like the idea that people like I was talking to somebody earlier who said they went to a wedding this weekend. And I was so glad to
Nice.
see. I said it's so glad to see kids going back to school, seeing the first day of school pictures, having people do weddings and see wedding pictures and graduation pictures and all this kind of stuff. It's just really very nice to see that.
So, Lisa, we actually hear you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, girl.
I guess it works on my phone. I don't know why.
That?
I don't know why it won't work on my computer. All of a sudden, are you still there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we hear you.
You don't have other issues like with Zoom or anything?
I tried to use a different program and it wouldn't work there either. But when I test it, when it's the guy that looked at it for me, a friend of mine, when he tested on the computer, it works. So
Well, I connect through the when I get the invites for the call and it saves to my calendar, I click through that. It takes me to the page in LinkedIn, and then I click on that and it opens right up and I don't have any problems.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. So I'll have to, I guess, play around with it again. I'm not sure. I can't see you guys anymore.
Well, that's because you're frozen on our end. Your face is like you're waving at us, but you're frozen.
We can see you from the nose up.
Yeah, it shows your internet connection is really low. You're basically in the red zone, so you don't have a full set of bars or whatever.
Oh, you can tell that on your end, Chris?
Yeah, because it shows the signal strength for the people who's on the call.
Oh, I never paid attention to that.
Yep.
When I was on going through the main page.
Yeah. So it shows you the signal strength of what people are piping in and everything. So it just depends where they're at and everything.
Well,
and
today feels like a Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It does feel like a Monday.
It feels like a Monday.
Yep. So what we'll be talking about this week, ladies, is collaboration and growth. And what does that look like and mean to us, and how truly interconnected they are and everything. And I spoke with Carla this morning, and we had a great and engaging conversation about it. And I think it's going to go over very well with not only our listeners, but the people who want to join our organization here in our community. Because when I was on a call yesterday, in fact, on Labor Day, they were talking about collaboration, how things just naturally happen when you just allow it to occur. And that's when it sparked my head. I'm like, hey, we already had that here. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, what's more important than collaboration in context with growth? How does that kind of connect? And when I think about it, I will go back to, of course, our great mentor and leader in his own right, John C. Maxwell. And I'm sure this week we'll show you a little clip from Carlos Church about growth. And that's when it sparked for me. I was like, that's how that happens. When you have collaboration, there's the potential for growth, potential for thriving, potential everything else. The momentum, everything is there. If you just let it to go to where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you collaborate, I mean, if it's a team that you're working with or a group of people or whatever, and you have to solve a problem, for example, you start brainstorming about it. And sometimes somebody might have an idea, and then the next person could say, well, let's take that one step forward farther and add to that. And it just grows and the organization grows. Because you can't grow an organization by yourself.
Right.
a group of people and collaborating and working together. You know, collaborating is just another word for working together.
Right.
Correct.
You just got to work together.
Exactly.
Correct.
If you
It
grow
helps
in
things go
business, you got to
smoother.
work together with other people, you know?
And when you collaborate, you have different points, you get different points of view. You know, see things from different perspectives because everyone's different and everyone looks at things differently. So it helps give you a broader view instead of, you know, your view.
Exactly. And what I said to Carla this morning, and I will say it again, is that if you create that dynamic to where what happens literally by default is that I truly believe when people truly do see the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to thrive, and when they see that that's their possibility, more often than not, people will be more receptive to that because number one, we're not jamming things down their throat. We're not mandating that you have to do X, X, and X, or you have to do X, Y, and Z, or whatever that might be. Just
Mm-hmm.
let people be who they were meant to be. And if you can just do it from that kind of context, and yes, we've heard it from Ryan so many times. What's the purpose of a business? You know,
Mm-hmm.
why is a business the way it is? Well, I will go back to what he said before. When we all look at a movie and do it from that very same movie that's in front of us, all three of us will have different takes on the very same movie. Now, why can't we not embrace that though? I do believe that we embrace the viewpoints of everyone around us. I truly believe we can get out of our model of the world, so to speak, and if we're willing to take that outside of ourselves, to say, "Hey, I'm willing to look at it from Carla's point of view, or Lisa's point of view, or Sandy's, or whoever," and if we're able to step out of my world, so to speak, to a little bit and see the possibilities that are there within that through the collaboration factor, through the uh, momentum factor, uh, everything. Like I say, everything's interconnected to everything else. And once, like I say, we allow that to occur, I believe the sky's the limit.
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is definitely collaborating with others is definitely more beneficial. It helps everyone involved, and like I said before, it gives the team different perspectives to consider, and that can just strengthen the team, make it stronger.
So I'm going to ask you, ladies, and this will be a good segue. And I asked of this to Carla this morning. Why doesn't companies today embrace the collaboration factor? Why does that not occur? And I won't say in every business, but I'm sure there's a majority of businesses who don't do that. But why don't we not embrace that to create a better environment that will create better results and create that energy and synergy that's around us? And I will throw that out to you guys, and I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that most companies will preach collaboration and that it's really good. But in theory, beyond theory, I mean, in practice, I think it's difficult to collaborate on everything, even though, I mean, it isn't, but it is, depending, and it goes right back to having the right people on your team. Because if someone doesn't want to collaborate, it can put a strain on the team. And then, you know,
Right.
people have better experiences if they are part of the team, if they're part of making decisions, all the way to team members on the production floor. If you're going to them and asking them to collaborate, it really makes things better for them because one, they know that people are coming to them for experience, for their expertise. But I think that sometimes it's difficult to do in practice. And so you have to have the right people on the team of people that really believe in collaboration for it to work.
I agree. Carla?
I think in some respects, they're so action and goal driven that they say, okay, we have such and such we want to have done. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. We don't have time to collaborate on that. It's proven its way in other industries, for example, and so we're gonna follow that model.
Mm-hmm.
When they do that, it doesn't always truly fit. It's like putting a round peg in a square hole. It doesn't necessarily fit what you're doing as an organization. And people throw up their hands like, I don't know why in the hell we're doing this because it ain't working and we're worse off now than we were before. Had they taken the time to talk with the people that are doing the job, that are, if it's in production, they're on the assembly line. If it's food service, they're the ones running the line and working the tables and, working as a team. Talk to those people because they're the ones that are going to have to implement it and say, okay, will this give us the same result? Take the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do it wrong to begin with, and then you got frustrated employees, and then you go to switch again and still not ask them for their input, you're not going to have people that want to work with you.
Right.
So put those people into the process of making a change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a matter of, hey, I want to make this change. Well, that only makes it look better for you. It doesn't do anything for me. If you feel that way, show how it doesn't work well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Show what that negativity is, by, if the general manager is saying, hey, we're going to change the way that the prep line flows or whatever, and somebody is resistant to it going, well, yeah, it's great that it works for you, but that's just making more work on us. They explain to me how that makes more work on you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it does. And say, you know what? You're right. It really isn't that good of a process. Maybe we should think it through. What do you think will make it happen, make the process better?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Be negative to be negative, and they may not even have an answer. And if that be the case, then that kind of solves it right then and there. But you need to really make a change. You need to bring people into that change and let them collaborate, let them have ownership of it, let them have a stake in the decision to see that, yeah, this is the best solution for how it can work.
Right.
And then they're going to be more willing to participate in it.
Right.
Well, I will go back to a little bit of that Seth Golden video, and we'll show it later on. It may not be on today's broadcast, but I might be doing it tomorrow, depending. But I like what he said about leaders taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we can all take responsibility in doing again. And I will put it up here because I know that this is the right thing to do and the right thing to say. It's because if you do the right thing, it's the right thing to do. You can't go wrong with right. So if we create that environment that everyone has a responsibility to his or her actions and his or her performance, what they do and how they do it. But it for me at least, it's not my duty or mandate to literally dictate how Lisa does her job or Carla does her job to the extent that says, oh, you have to do it this way, A, B, C, this is how you got to do it. It's just like what Sandy said many times. Who cares how it gets done as long as it gets done?
Well, there are some jobs that have to be done in a sequential order, that have got to be done a particular way. But there are a lot of jobs out there that really don't have to.
Yeah, and also, there are jobs, like Carla's saying, there are jobs that just they have to get done. And there are times when leaders have to take the initiative, right, to say, this is a decision I have to make, and boom, done. However, in most cases, it is beneficial to get the input of your team. Like Carla was saying, if you make a decision as a leader, you're making a decision as a leader, sometimes you have to, but getting the input of your team will help that buy-in, and they are going to be more apt, the team is going to be more apt to participate in that decision if they are made part of the decision making, if possible. And I think that as a leader, in most cases, I think people understand that, there are times when a leader just has to make the call without the input. But in most cases, they're going to respect the fact, especially if on regular occurrences, they're bringing the team together to say, hey, what do you think? What can we do? What are your thoughts? And a lot of times, the team, they are the experts. It's not necessarily the leader that knows it all, that has all the answers per se. It's their team that is providing, their inputs, because they're the experts at their job. They're providing that input to help the leader make the decision.
Right. And I completely agree with that, because, again, if we create better environments, and it's for the betterment for everybody, from the person who actually is wrapping up your order, let's say at Amazon, because I used to work at Amazon. This is the reason why I say this, is because at Amazon, they tell you there should be no problem up and down the chain. So if you see that problem that occurs, you have to at least acknowledge it and root it out before it goes down the line. Or if it comes from up the line, they should catch it before it reaches to you. And if you could create that environment to where people can take responsibility, and also a basically a human dynamic standpoint, and say, again, I'm willing to do the right thing because I know it's the right thing to do, because if I can't go wrong with right, then why am I doing what I'm doing? If I know it's in the wrong, then why can I not fix it? See, and I believe we hand tie so many people to the constraints that are either we subliminally put that in front of others, or we knowingly put that in front of others. So I want to take that to you, ladies. What's your thought on that? I know it's deep, but I think it'll be clear as day. It's when people see that there is a way forward. If like I said, if I allow Lisa to see a problem, take care of a problem, make it right, that should be from her and her alone. She shouldn't have to come to me and say, "Hey, we got said problem here. I don't know what to do here. Can I get it fixed?" And see, sometimes the best way to get a thing taken care of is leave it to the people who are already there. Because if you get that kind of constraint, oh, I got to go up the chain of command or go to my supervisor, and sometimes you may not have the time to wait. You got to get things done. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that definitely we should have the right people in the jobs so that they are able to handle the normal occurrences. Obviously, if they need the leader's help in figuring out an answer, sometimes you have to do that, right? But in most cases, you should have the people on your team be the experts of their job and not have to go up the chain of command to get things done. Now, there might be certain times when that's necessary. I might not really know the answer and I need help in figuring out the answer. So I go to my leader for that help. And I'm a strong believer in not just handing the answer to the person and here's your answer. Previous, I worked with a couple of interns at different times, and I would purposely give them scenarios that I knew they didn't have the answer for. As part of their training, I would say, okay, you're presented with this problem. How do you fix it? How do you handle it? And I would tell them to go figure it out and come back to me with an answer. It wasn't a real problem. It was part of their training, but it was a real life problem that could come up. So, and I would tell them, if for some reason I'm not here and this problem comes to you, I want you to know how to handle it. And so again, as part of the interns training, as they were learning the job, I would throw them different scenarios for them to figure out. And I would tell them, don't go to the HR generalist and ask them what the answer is. I want you to figure out the answer on your own, because I could tell you the answer, but that you don't learn as well that way. And it's something that, again, if they're answering and doing these things on their own, they're going to remember them. And if it comes up again, they're not going to forget. Whereas if a leader just gives them the answer, they're not necessarily going to remember the next time because they didn't figure it out for themselves. So I'm a strong believer in people being given the ability to do their job, because they should be the experts.
Right.
From my past experience, I don't believe that, in my experience, the leaders I've had to deal with, or management, I would say that they're management because they don't give people the open ability to solve problems. They don't let go of that power, and they say, if you have issues, you come to me first. And saying, hey, I've noticed this problem. Sometimes you don't even feel comfortable offering a suggestion because you don't feel like you're allowed to have that be your place to suggestion. Whereas if it was a leader that was open to that, you would be able to say, you can make a difference between whether it's a huge problem or a small problem, but say, hey, I noticed that XYZ was going on, so I went ahead and took care of that. Because in the past, I've dealt with that. When I've tried to do that, they go, well, why'd you do that? Why wouldn't have done it that way? Well, the problem is solved right now. If you'd like to implement something else for when it comes up again, go ahead. But it wasn't, as Sandy would say, it's not rocket science. I don't think that a lot of management, and there we go with the difference between management and leadership, I don't think that they're open to allowing people to make decisions to fix a problem.
And I think they're just hurting themselves. They're hurting the team in general, because again, it takes that knowledge away from the expert, if you will. It takes that person feeling like you said, Carla, you just don't feel like you can make the decision, even though you could make it correctly in your own way based on your experience, because you're afraid to, because the manager is not receptive to it. And shame on them, because really it only hurts the team. It hurts the manager, if you will. Because you can't expect everything to come to you as a leader.
And a lot of people want that, though. I'm the leader. I want people to come to me with problems. I want to be able to answer their questions, because that gives them the ability to feel like that they're needed. I don't want to be needed. When I have people on my team, I don't want them to need me. I want to be a resource for them. I want them to grow. And I think that too many companies don't really want their employees to grow. And I would rather have somebody grow. And if they choose to make a change in where they work, I want to make sure that they're doing it because they're growing personally and not because I did not allow them to grow.
Right. And you say that, and I know we're going to be talking about growth too, but a lot of companies, well, some companies have the policy to where their direct manager has to approve them being promoted.
Oh, yeah.
For instance, say you work for a multi-location company and there's a job in a different city that you want to take. And so a lot of companies, before you apply for the job, you got to talk to your manager, make sure they're okay with it, which I think is so ridiculous because just like you said, not a lot of managers want those people to grow because they're afraid to lose them.
Yeah. That happened to my son. That happened to my son's girlfriend. And she wanted to grow and do more in the company, and it had to be approved by her direct manager, and it was never approved because he didn't want to lose her because he didn't want to train somebody else. Well, she's leaving in 2 weeks.
Exactly. And so if you have managers in place, they're going to say, no, I don't want you leaving. But if you have a leader in place, that leader is going to say, you know what? It's better for you to be with this company than it is for me to stop you from growing, because you're going to leave the company if you can't grow eventually. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 2 weeks from now, but eventually if we stop people from being able to grow, they will leave that company. And that gets around, and eventually people stop trying. They stop trying to fix things. They stop trying to solve problems because they know they're not ever going to go anywhere. They become robots. They become, I'm just going to come in and do my job and go home.
Yep.
And that's sad.
I was just reading an article today that Gallup did a poll of 1 billion people worldwide, and they said that only 15% of people actually felt engaged in their job. That means 85% were not liking their job at all. And there's some people that kind of go, oh, la, 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 when it comes to percentages. But think of it as a dinner party. You have 100 people at that dinner party, and 15 people actually love what they do for work or somewhat like it. And the other 85 people at the party could give two hoots about what they do. And they hate going to work every day.
Right.
Which side of that equation do you want to be on?
Exactly.
And why would you want that kind of dynamic in your workplace? That only 15% of the people that you work with are actually engaged in the work, and the other 85% are like, you're pushing them along like little children to get in line. You're pushing a rope. Why would you want to do that as management in an organization?
Yeah, I don't know. It only hurts the entire organization.
Yeah, you're not going to get what you want and reach your goals as an organization with that kind of mindset.
It stops the entire organization from growth.
Yeah.
It just stagnates the entire organization. So it really is not beneficial to anyone. And so we go back to, I think that brings us back to training and developing your leaders so that their leaders can help those people that are the experts, help them grow and develop themselves so that they can handle things on their own, so they can solve problems. I think one of the best things as a manager or a leader that we could say is, what my job here is to help people around me do better. That's my job as a leader, is to develop and grow these people around us because they're the experts,
Yeah.
And so that has a trickle down effect for the organization. And, you know, people, you hire people, you put them in their places, in their designated spaces as far as their position goes, based on their expertise, based on their fit with the organization as well. I think that is so important. A lot of people shudder to, you know, talk about that. But if you have the
Right.
wrong people in your company, you know, it's going to change the culture of your organization, or change the culture one way or another. And if it's not the way you want your organization to go, you know, you have to have the right people, not just the right experts. You know, I used to hear in HR a lot, you know, the companies that I've worked for, at times, you know, they would say, oh, he's okay. He's, you know, he's really good at his job, or she's really good at her job. It doesn't matter that they're, you know, have an attitude problem, or, you know, they're not treating people right, because they're really good at their job. They're really good at what they do. That, to
So we'll
me.
turn a blind eye to attitude,
Mhm.
but allow them to do their job and affect the culture of the organization.
Exactly. And it's a shame, because it's a trickle down effect to everyone in the organization,
It's a
or to
ripple effect.
anyone that
That
they
culture spreads
connect
out
with.
across the whole organization. That negativity. It's like a
Exactly.
virus.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know Sandy talks a lot about cross training, and I thought about that when you were talking about training people and helping them grow in an organization. And one of the companies that I worked for as a nurse, I actually learned how to print fee tickets for the morning. I could check people in and check people out. I could run the credit card machine. I could chaperone patients. I could do procedures. I learned how to do everything. And
Mhm.
that, you know, that gave me a lot more appreciation of the people that were actually in those jobs. But it also gave me the ability that if somebody was running late, their child was sick at the last minute, they had their car break down, whatever, that I could
Mhm.
pitch it for them. And it helped the organization. Plus, it gave me an opportunity to learn something new.
Exactly. And it, you know, it helped the individual that was running late or whatever to know that they didn't have to worry that you got it, or someone else has it, just for that little bit of time that they can't be there, or whatever. I mean, things happen, and sometimes you have to take care of other things. And so I think it only helps strengthen the team, even though I think initially people are afraid to have other people learn their job, because they're afraid, right?
Right.
But,
They're
but
Well,
it only strengthens the team.
yeah.
So,
Well, I want to go to this, and then we'll go to one of our viewers who is actually on a LinkedIn comment he just posted. But this is what comes up for me. You will either step forward into growth, or you will step backward into safety. And I believe that's truly powerful. And which way do you want to go? You want to stay within your comfort zone, or you want to go out and be a part of something bigger? But this is what Joseph just said on LinkedIn. What if a life change has altered your attitude? Point in case, my wife passed away and my outlook on what should be done has changed. Now, Joseph, that's a great question, and this is the way I will answer it to the best of my ability. When it comes to the death of a loved one, and I'm sorry for your loss of your wife, because I'm sure that was hard unto itself. And my condolences are to you and your family at that time when she passed. Um, for me, it's about recognizing, number one, how do I pull myself together and say, hey, I need the time to grieve. I need the time to heal. I need the time to get my thoughts into place and everything. And that's why we have a grieving process. That's a natural order of things. That's something we have to always do. Some people react differently to others, and we all react differently to whether to be fear, grief, whatever that might be for us. And that's what makes us so unique. But I like what you just said there is I will move forward and excel. And see, Joseph, that's the great thing about being who we are as people. We can choose not only our attitude, but we can choose our destiny because we so choose to go down that road. And you have to have, to me, Joseph, just know that there's hope and faith. Number one. Number two, find the power within you and say, I will go and be guided by the power of positivity and the power of possibility. And if we have that positive mindset ingrained in us, we can go forward and do it. Like you just said, I will move forward and excel. But see, that's my take on it, Joseph. And you're on the right track. And yet, like I said, I know that's probably hard for you because you just passed on August 9th. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you're still going through. And like I said, I've been there. I literally, when I heard about my grandfather passing, it was some number of years ago. I couldn't get off of work because I had to work. But my mom and dad said, "Hey, Chris, if you want to go, let me know. We'll take you up there." And it's like I can't get off of work. There'd be no way. And they would have paid for my flight. They would have paid for my room and board, all that kind of stuff. My parents would have done that because it was my last grandfather. But I did take stock in saying, hey, I let work know. I say, hey, I got to have some time. And they gave me that time to grieve and to understand and reflect because sometimes you get so scatterbrained and then you forget something goes wrong, and then at that point you're no good to anybody else. So that's why it's so imperative, I believe, that companies recognize when people are in those places of distress, whether it be through, like I said, a loss of a loved one, or something happened within their circle of friends or family, whatever that might be. But I'll throw out to you, ladies. What's your thoughts on what Joseph just presented to us?
Well, I think that you have to allow yourself to go through the grieving process, and you can't skip any of the steps, and you can't put a time limit on it. You have to really understand it. And if you don't know about the grief process, there's some great books out there on it. But take each step as it comes. We were just talking about this weekend. There was something we were talking about at church about dealing with sadness. And my husband and I were talking about when my mom died a little over, well, it was in August, 13 years ago. And I almost quit my job the day before she died. I spent the night with her the night before she died, and then the next morning that she couldn't do it anymore. She had fought cancer. She did a great job fighting cancer for 10 years, and then her cancer came back with a vengeance, and she died within 2 weeks. So it was just really a shock to everybody. And being in the medical field, I realized that people are going to die. Our parents are going to die one day. I think it'd be completely different if it was a spouse or a child or whatever. But, what did I do? I just go back into work and stayed busy, helped my dad out, family stuff. And then I fell on the golf course down a hill and broke my ankle in 2 places. And that was when I just kind of hit the wall. And I remember I'd go to work during the day and I'd lay in bed at night and cry. And next thing I know, I was crying, not because of pain, it was because I was missing my mom, because my mom wasn't there anymore, But you have to allow yourself to go through that in your own time. it's great that hopefully companies will give people time off for bereavement. I'm not talking months and months and months, but a good week or whatever their policy is. But just realize when people come back into the workforce, they're going to be preoccupied. They're making adjustments in their life, and we need to be understanding of that in leadership. It might be a parent that you lost, and you have to go help your dad with legal stuff or whatever, and you need time away from work. People need to have that time. Figure out a way that they could make up the hours if need be. It's not the end of the world that they're not there, but work with them as much as you can to help them through that process.
Exactly. I think when something like that happens to us, I lost my mother and my father different times, 10 years apart or so. But you go through a lot of ups and downs, and it's important to reach out to your network of family and friends, other support groups to help you through. But it really changes your perspective on what's important, your priorities, I think. And so, like Joe was saying, it can change you. And I think you look at things differently. You look at your work differently. You look at what is a priority to me now. So I think it's just important to understand that that's normal. And, like Carla and Chris were saying, you have to work through the grief. It takes time. It's, my mother's been gone 3 years, and I still to this day will certain times, want to call her, or, would like to talk to her or miss her or whatever. I mean, my dad's been gone actually more like 20 years now, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't at different times think about something will remind me of him, whether it's a picture or something someone says, a gesture, a reaction. It could be a smell of something that reminds me. It sounds really silly, but those are just things that happen, and it gets easier over time, but it is something that everyone deals with differently, and depending on the person, and reaching out to your network and things like that will help you through.
And Joseph, I'm glad your company has offered counseling to you, and that's a good step forward. And I commend them on that. And I just sent you a message on LinkedIn Live to connect with me, connect with Lisa, connect with Carla, and we would love to have that great, engaging conversation with you. And if you ever want to join us live, the live link is in my reply back to you. So if you'd like to join us, we would love to have you on the show. But again, it's about just being human. If we as leaders, number one, can show that compassion, show that sincerity, show that willingness to say, hey, Joe, if you got to go, you got to go. If you got to be with your family, you got to pick a seat. And not just, it doesn't just affect that one person or that one family. You got to think about it. It spreads out so far and wide. There are people that you don't even know that are going to be affected by that. There's going to be neighbors. There's going to be cousins, second cousins, you name it, the whole gambit of family and friends that now is going to be affected by that loss of that person. Especially when it comes to you, Joseph, the loss of your wife. There's so many people that get affected by a loss of a loved one, whether it be through natural causes, an accident, whatever that might be. But I just recognize when I'm in a position of leadership, and that comes to pass with me, that someone comes to me and say, "Hey, Chris, I got to go. My wife is in the hospital. Got to go do." Then first thing out of my mouth, I swear,
I'm like, go.
let's go.
Yeah. Get your purse, get your keys, just go.
Go.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I recognize that because, again, I will go back to our great quote.
It's the right
Doing
thing
the
to
right
do.
thing is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right. Go ahead,
There's
Carla.
not even a thought of, I mean, if I were in a situation that I had a boss, and luckily I didn't have this situation. If I had I had an issue where when my mom, before she actually died, there were several times that she was like cratering, and I called up my boss and I said, "Hey, I've got to go to the hospital." And she said, if you got anything pressing, tell Sherry about it. Go. You know, I think if I had a boss like that was like, "Well, can you finish your shift and then go down?" I would say to hell with you and walk out the door, and I wouldn't even go back there to work. So there's not even a choice when you have a situation like that and you have a family member that's ill and you've got to go like that. You just go, "Hey, just go. We'll figure it out later," because that's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
There's no second thought about, well, let's see, maybe we could get a couple more hours out of this person. If you did that to somebody, let's just think logically, do you think that they're going to show up tomorrow or in a week after the funeral or whatever?
You think they're going to be engaged and motivated? No.
No. They're going to remember that you wanted to squeeze a little bit more out of them before they went to deal with their dying loved one.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, I'm going to bring this up yet again because, again, it comes from John C. Maxwell, and it's one of his great teachings, and we swear by it here at Bringing Humanity Together because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Not only will that work in collaboration, but that also will work into the growth factor, and that also will work into about doing the right thing. If you just be who you are meant to be and you show others around you, whether to be at work or otherwise, that you're willing to care about them implicitly as a human being, that speaks volume to you as a person that has character, morals, um, and understanding in one's place at that given time. So if something happens, hey, Carla, if you got to go, you got to go. Go. We'll handle it from here. Lisa, if you got to go, you got to go. Go.
And
Right.
if you find that you have to say, "Well, I need to work on that part of my character," you got a lot of work to do.
Exactly.
And see, and I've said this many times in the past, and I truly believe still to this day. Where are you willing to take that stand? Are you willing to take that stand to what is the right thing to do? Or are you willing to, again, are you willing to let go of what you fear to lose? Are you willing to let go of that control? Are you willing to let go of that authority? Are you willing to let go of being that manager?
I don't
Are
feel
you,
like I have control or authority over anybody.
Right.
and I truly believe, and the more I'm thinking about what happened with Joseph and his situation that just happened to him recently with his wife, isn't it the human thing to do is the right thing to do? Because if you think of it, the human thing to do is to say, hey, Joseph, if you got to go, you be with your wife, do whatever you got to do. We'll get it from here. And then, like with him, his wife ended up passing So to me, I would have said, hey, take as much time as you need to have off. Don't even worry about coming back until you get your mind right. Because he even said it that, I'll pull it up here because he said it that it literally his whole outlook has changed, his attitude, and the thing that he would actually wanted to probably things that should have been done also has changed. So again, are we willing to be as not only leaders as human beings in any dynamic there is, whether it be a worker or a community? Are we willing to recognize where again meet people where they are versus expecting them to come to meet us where we are? Are we willing to have that true give and take?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just demand of somebody, you're not going to get all out of them. But if you ask and you kind of get that engagement with them and say, "How are you doing today?" This, that, and the other, and it again, it's just about doing the right thing. And if we can do that more as not only leaders but individual people as a whole, now, I truly believe this, ladies. Not only will our work dynamics change for the better, but our societies and communities will be better for it because, like I said many times before, the very same community that we live in is the very same community that we work in.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we make it hard on ourselves that way? Especially like what happened with Joseph. If it was me, I was like I said, Joseph, take as much time as you need to take.
Right.
What's your thoughts, Lisa?
I think that, it's like you said, it's the right thing to do for the person. It might not be the right thing to do for the business if you're, but that's where the cross training comes into play because life
Mm-hmm.
happens. It happens to every one of us. I used to kind of chuckle at one of our managers in one of the companies I work with. They would always say, "Well, I never miss time." Well, okay, well that's great for you that you never have any issues where you know, need to be at home with your family. But, you know, sometimes the right thing to do is to be there with the family for whatever issue comes up. But just because you've never had to miss time doesn't mean someone else doesn't need to.
Right.
So we can't just use that example and say, "Oh, well, I've never had to miss time." Well, that's great for you,
Yeah.
but life happens, and sometimes the only place to be is at home with your family. For whatever happens, or it's to be home for yourself, getting yourself right,
Right.
because
Well, was
everyone
this
deals
person
with things differently, and if you as a person are not where you need to be to have your mind right, you shouldn't be there.
Well, was this person saying, "Well, I never have to miss time, and so because you're giving this other person time off, that means I have to do more work"?
No, didn't even, well, I mean, it affected them, but it didn't really. It's just, they were just trying to say, "Well, I don't understand why people need time off. I never need any time off." Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone
People
is
need time off.
different.
Unless
I
you
know.
want to die doing your job, you know?
And I think what it is just priorities. I think there were situations where, the individual would come to work and they really should have been at home with their family,
Well,
but they chose to just be at work.
for years, organizations would because they had problems with people calling in sick, they would have bonuses at the end of the year for people that didn't miss more than 2 days, for example. And
Mhm.
next thing you know, you've got people coming in when they should really be at home with their family, or they're sick themselves and they drag in and make everybody else sick because
Oh,
they don't want to miss out on that bonus.
Presenteeism, that's an HR term that's used. That is when someone comes to work that is not 100% where they need to be. So their productivity is not as good as it should be. And so it affects the work, it affects the culture, and like Carla said, the person may be coming to work sick. And so they're getting people sick. So it's one of those things where, you have to make a judgment call. If you wake up and you're sick, do you say, oh, well, I'm just going to go into work because they can't live without me?
Yeah.
Right? They can't make it without me. So I'm just going to go in, and then everyone else gets sick. People around me get sick. Is that really the right thing to do?
right.
Then they're getting their illness. They're taking it home to their families.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, it's like they say the cold is the most contagious illness you'll ever have. Well, it's because we don't stop when we have a cold. I mean, who can stop life when they have a cold?
Yeah.
You go on about your business, you go to the grocery store, you go to work, you go, unless you're really feeling bad, right? Because most of the time when you have a cold,
Tylenol, you take some cold medicine and you move on your way. Yeah.
and I've done it, you're not going to stay home for 14 days to let a cold work through your system. But it's, there's certain things, and there's a line that has to be drawn. Do you stay home and, the worst few days so that you're not contagious to others, or, what do you do? And so again, I don't know how many people have called in and said, hey boss, I'm not coming in, I have a cold. They'd probably laugh at you, right?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, you take care of yourself to where your immune system's strong.
Right.
But again, usually a cold isn't debilitating. You get through it, you move on, and
Only the husband sometimes.
Right. But I think that's why it's the most contagious illness you'll ever have, is because you don't stop. You go on about your business, and so it's easily spread because people don't stop. And I think that's, one of the things that, again, it's like this pandemic, some event has altered the belief systems that people have. A good majority of them. I mean, some people didn't change, but other people said, oh, I have to slow down. I'm sick.
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases, not all, but in most cases, COVID was an illness that people got through. Obviously there were a lot of deaths and things like that, but, and I'm not taking away from that, but I think the majority of the people that got COVID made it through. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's like a cold, it's very similar to a cold, and maybe a little worse depending on how bad you got it, or if your immune system was able to fight it off or not. But how many people stayed home for 14 days or 10 days when they got a cold? Nobody. Very few, if any, I should say. But when COVID hit, they said, stay home. You get a symptom, you stay home. And employers were putting policies in place to keep people from bringing it into the workplace.
Yeah.
Are they going to do that for a cold? No.
They're going to do that for the flu.
They're not doing it for the flu, and if you're a leader that expects your people to be there no matter what, are they going to feel comfortable calling you when they have the flu? No, they're going to come in and they're going to dredge through it, and other people are going to get sick, and some people aren't going to be afraid to call in, but again, I think as a leader, you set the tone. You set the tone for, does your team grow or does your team stay stagnant? Right. And if you're a leader who sets the tone to keep people at arm's length so they don't grow, I mean, your team is gonna suffer, your organization will suffer.
And that's why I'm a firm believer of meeting people where they're at. So if people are, whether to be sick or they caught a cold or whatever that might be, I want to ask them, hey, do you feel like you can come in? And if it's something that they can probably, like you said before, Lisa, in that great post about hybrid work, are you able to do this maybe at home?
Right.
And if you're able to do that at home, then I would say, hey, take as much time as you need. If you don't have to come in the office, so be it. Do what you got to do. I have no problem with that. And I believe that we can embrace some sense of balance when stuff like this occurs in our workplaces today, that people do have other things outside of work, and say, what will be the natural balance here? What do we do with Joe since his wife just passed? What do we do? Well, to me, I think like anyone else would say, hey, let Joe do what he's got to do. Let his mind be right. Let him come back when he's ready, and that kind of thing. And especially now when it comes to being sick and everything like that, I think we got to have that now natural balance kind of conversation in saying, if it's something that can be done at home, let's do it at home. You know, but there's going to be some instances in some industries, especially like in the restaurant business, there's no way that that can be achieved unless you do admin work and that kind of thing. That's going to be something totally different. So again, I still see that there should be a natural balance conversation in how do we approach things when these kind of things show up to us, not only as leaders, but show up to us as people saying, hey, I got to go to work and got to make some money, but I'm not feeling up to it. So what do I do? You know?
Right. And I think that if we as leaders ask our employees when they're going through something like that, a death of a family member, especially because you just don't know how you're going to respond to that as a person. And everyone is different, even every death is different. I mean, my mom died, my dad has passed. Each one of those I handled differently, and so what's wrong with a leader saying, hey, what do you need in a time like this? What can we do to help you through this? What do you need? You know how engaging and energizing that would be in a time of grief when you don't even, but to hear those words, to think, oh, they're going to work with me with what I need. They're going to work with me. How energizing and engaging would that be? To say, you're in control here. Let's do what you need. That, I think that in itself is just powerful, if you ask me. To say
No,
that.
it's not only powerful, Lisa, it's empowering.
It is
When
exactly.
we give them that power, then they can say, hey, they're not in it just for themselves. They're in it for me.
Right. And I think what happens is employers, they get so much, they get a lot of people who take advantage. So they're afraid to say those things because, well, Lisa might take a month or she might take 2 months and not really need it, or whatever. But again, I think that goes back to having the right people on your team, because you should be able to trust them. And
yeah, I was going to say, if you can't trust the people that are working with you, why do you have them working with you?
Right. Well, I think what happens, and I only say this from HR, you hear a lot of different things. You see a lot of different leaders, and some leaders are like, let's just do what they need. They're workable. Other managers have they've been in the business maybe too long, and it might be time. You sometimes you can get jaded, you especially when you're managing a big team like a production team, where you see things going on and you really just don't necessarily have control. But I think more times than not, if we empower people to do the right thing, I think most people will come back and do the right thing. Now, there are people out there that won't, right? And so those are the ones I'm talking about that have, jaded maybe a person that's been in it too long. And their first reaction is, oh, they're going to, they're going to take advantage. And that's when it's time, right? To step back and say, okay, when you only see the negatives and you can't make a good judgment for the people that that aren't going to take advantage because you're jaded by the others, I think it's time to take a step back and say, okay, we need a new perspective here. Because I think in most cases, I mean, if someone said to you, what do you need? What can we do to help you through this? It would be so empowering that I don't think most people could do.
Hopefully they wouldn't take advantage of it.
My call to action is just
Somebody's phone is ringing.
Just do the right thing, Don't let the negativity jade you in doing the wrong thing.
And did that also go into collaboration and growth too as well, Lisa?
Yeah, I think when we empower people to do the right thing, collaboration, growth, those are outputs, right? I think you're going to grow if people are able to do the right thing, if they're able to make those decisions to do the right thing. Obviously, without collaboration, there's no growth. Without people being empowered to do the right thing, I don't think there can be any growth, and there's no real engagement. So, people won't collaborate.
Carla?
I'm kind of hanging back on this giving to your employees what they need. I like the idea that
I gotta let you go. We got an emergency alert going off here.
Oh, is it an Amber Alert?
No, it's emergency weather.
Oh.
You know what? It's fine. It's not for me. Okay, we're good. I just had to go check.
I like the idea that the company is stepping up to the plate and giving him what he needs. I like the idea of leadership saying, okay, we'll figure out what we're going to do on the corporate end to make it work, be a leader and not a manager, and give people the time that they need for whatever situation comes up at home, saying, hey, what is it you need? But also, I think as an employee, we need, and part of a team, we need to recognize the gift that we're given by companies that do that, that where people work together, where they help each other out, they don't keep score. They, as a leader, you say, what can I do to help you? And, take the time you need, but certainly don't abuse it. And by that, it becomes easy. It's not even a question when you say, I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah. And my call to action is, number one, just be human. Because even as leaders, we're human beings, no more, no less than anyone else. So just be human. And number two, again, I will go to our great quote here. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right. So when we as people, excuse me, are willing to do the right thing, not only when it comes to collaboration, not only to excuse me, not only when it comes to growth, but doing the right thing, we can get so much from that if we just let that be for what it is. And I truly believe that. So, excuse me. Uh, Ladies, thank you so much for joining me here on Sharing Care with Sandy. Uh, Wish Sandy was here, but she has other things that she has to do. Excuse me. Man, something caught in my throat. I got a big frog in my throat.
Swallowed wrong.
Yeah. So, thank you for the great and engaging conversation, Joseph. Again, we love to have that great and engaging conversation with you. So please reach out to us when you can. And remember, if you're willing to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, you can't go wrong with right. So please reach out to me, Sandy, Carla, Lisa, and anyone else on our team. We will love to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And remember, tomorrow 2:45 to 3 o'clock, we have our meet and greet for Conversation for Humanity. And we'll see you tomorrow for Conversation for Humanity at 3 p.m. sharp here on LinkedIn Live / YouTube channel too as well. So everyone have a great day. Make it your day, and we'll see you
Bye
tomorrow.
bye. See
Bye
ya.
bye.
Bye, everybody.